I speak to you, and sorry for being so casual. I speak from managed isolation, quarantine in New Zealand. I've just come back from 2 weeks over in quick visit to Paris, then to the UK and back to Brussels on trade issues. And so I had a brief visit to a farm in Devon in the UK, and it was a timely reminder of, I guess, the systems of agriculture are different, but similar in many ways as well on the other side of the world. And I went to a farm where the farmer had moved from a housed system into pastoral grazing and was getting a premium from Arla, his processing company, and reminded me that around the world, people are moving to pastoral systems as a way of connecting to their consumers and picking up some premiums for it as well. So look, thank you. I'm Minister for Trade, Minister for Agriculture, and Minister for Lands, which in our country places responsibility for the Crown-owned lands that form very much part of our high country, and often are the iconic vistas that we see connected to Mount Cook in our Southern Alps. And I'm really proud of having some role in responsibility in that area, because it is a wonderful part of our country. I haven't looked at your whole program, and so I apologise if I speak kind of off a tangent, but I'll just go back to a couple of principles that I've had as coming in as Minister of Agriculture. We've had a proud history of agricultural production, even though it's just say for a couple of hundred years in our country. We've rapidly deforested a lot of our country and put in place some pastures and developed very efficient systems at producing animal protein, milk and meat from those. And we've charged on and become one of the more efficient producers of animal protein in the world. But reached a point now where we see there are some environmental impacts on some of our waterways. We're looking at our biodiversity and considering a wider objectives, our social license to operate, as is happening, I think, in an increasing number of countries. So coming in, I said, well, have we got a clear vision for agriculture as we move forward? And do we know where we want to be in 50 years' time? And an independent group of people came up with Fit for a Better World, which is it's a kind of a vision, a bit of an overall strategy that says, look, we need to move forward and consider sustainability, inclusiveness, and making sure that we have, people in New Zealand understanding what we're doing on the land and connecting better to our consumers. And that's a very simple summary, but also embracing Te Taiao, which is a concept from our Māori people that effectively is well-being for all parts of our planet, of our water, of our land, and of our people. And that underlying principle of Te Taiao, I think, summarises a lot of the things that we need to do. And so we have that general vision and direction. We're working on some plans and some funding and support to move us along that path. And indeed, I think we have come quite a long way forward. One of the issues, and I know you're talking about, is regenerative agriculture. And I prompted a bit of discussion on social media on the weekend and put up, it was an article from the UK where a large landowner there was talking about the benefits of shifting that property into regenerative practices and the benefits of connecting to consumers. I put that up and said, look, a lot of what they're talking about here, we're doing in New Zealand, but we have to take those messages from the marketplace back into our systems. Of course, that prompted a bit of outrage from some farmers saying, we're already doing this, don't preach to us. The point is, I think we are doing a lot of good things to be sustainable, but there's a lot more that we can do. And if we are to really connect with our consumers, and convince them that good practice, good soil, good animal management, good practice all around. The values of Te Taiao should deliver you higher quality nutrition, and you'd be prepared to pay a bit more for it. And that's kind of my underlying objectives. I don't want to define what regenerative is, because that will just cause a bit of a storm. But the principles that I understand around rotational pastoral grazing, looking at the soil, trying to reduce our carbon footprint, all of those things need to be part of our production systems as we go forward. And we as a government have already committed quite a bit of money to move us down that path, without saying to the conventional farmers and systems that what you're doing is wrong, because I think that would be wrong in itself, and it wouldn't engender the kind of support that we need to move us forward. I have said, provocatively, I guess, I said we should be the best farmers for the world. That is, we can't claim to be the best in the world. We probably don't have the latest technology. We may not have the latest genetic material in terms of our pasture species or our animals, but the things that we have learned, I think we need to share with the world, and that is around sustainable production of food and nutrition. And those are the underlying principles of everything that I do, and supported by my cabinet colleagues. And so we are spending a lot of money. We are trying to encourage people who are leading out in this area. And to those who want to turn their back and think that they can carry on with their past practices, we're having to give them a little curry up. And that will be in the form of some regulations around water quality, ensuring that we implement, the best animal welfare standards, that we've got traceability of all our products. Those are the kinds of things that we are doing and I'm supporting. I'm going to stop there because there may be some questions, Pablo, that you or the people here would want to ask me. But just to say, look, thank you for your initiative. What Zoom does is offer us a very efficient interaction and discussion, and we should do more of it, even though that it seems a little non-personal. Nonetheless, as I've found out, probably better than having a meeting with someone who has a mask on. So the world is adapting to the new ways of COVID. It's a huge challenge for us. And until we get ahead of that, I think we need to continue to share knowledge, share our passion, and actually move livestock protein production, nutrition production in particular, into a slightly better space, because there is some consumer reaction and resistance. We have to convince them that actually done well, and sustainably, actually livestock protein provides a huge source of nutrition and will do for a long time into the future. So kia ora, thank you very much.
Kia ora, thank you very much, Damien. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for all your support. It's been fantastic to have been visiting with you for a while, and we really feel your support. So suddenly we only got 5 minutes. We got 1 or 2 questions for the minister. So I know Paul McGill got a question or a comment, but is there any other comment or question to the minister?
I'll just context that. I guess that
Yep.
I think we've got to realise, as what we've been talking about, this is it's all a continuum, and I think sometimes we try to talk about the past as it being different from the future rather than a progress that we're doing. And I think if we take that context, you'll take people along the journey and we'll get better outcomes rather than trying to make it a them and us, or a that way versus that way. That's, I guess, where I'm coming from.
Well, I have to say I've certainly never tried to do that at all. There are some people for cheap political reasons and just for debate try to paint it that way. It is a continuum, and we have to encourage people and support them. And indeed, from a government perspective, that's why we're investing literally tens of millions of dollars, 37 in the last budget, to help with extension services and the sharing of the information that we are developing, sharing that with people who may not have heard or who wanted to further develop their skills on farm.
So, Minister, thanks very much indeed for your time today. I think it's more of a comment. It's the fact that actually I think you're doing New Zealand down a little bit. I think New Zealand actually in the eyes of the world is seen as being a world leader in agriculture. And clearly you've had some significant impact of the recent information there was on water quality, on that view of it being a green and clean country. But I would argue that New Zealand is set to lead the world in terms of demonstrating of a new agricultural practice for that clean, green, connected and integrated agricultural system. So I would ask you what it is you would do in order to have New Zealand lead the world rather than appear to be sitting in a backseat.
Look, thanks, Ian. And I, one of the things that we have done as a nation, and as Trade Minister, I'm very conscious of it. When we commit to something, we follow it through. That's not always the case around the world. I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm saying that as a small nation, we do have to rely on our integrity and our credibility when it comes to negotiating trade agreements and a whole lot of things. So when we say that our food, is safe and can be traced and is backed by the best standards in the world, we have to make sure that is indeed the case. Look, for the most part, our farmers are outstanding. But we also have, in a new world of social media, we have some what I call laggards, or some who don't understand the reasons why. And we've got to get alongside them and help them move forward, so that our brand is in no way tarnished. And I think you can see that. The big multinational brands are always subject to misfortune by some some small incident. We too, if we want to build our brand, and I think it's a good brand now, if we want to build that further, we have to make sure that we can back it with integrity. And I think that's what we're doing. I could take you to, there'll be hundreds of farmers in our country that are right at the leading edge in terms of low carbon emissions, animal welfare, and all of that. We just have to make sure that their expertise and passion and knowledge is shared with others who think perhaps they don't need to, because for whatever reasons. So all of us are governed by, unfortunately, in the new world of social media is the summary. We're governed by the lowest common denominator, and we want to make sure that we don't have any that drag us back.
Thank you very much, Minister. It's very nice to meet you online. I have a question and then just a favor to ask of you. I am masquerading here as an evaluator for OECD, to evaluate OECD as a sponsor of this work. And my question really is, you were saying you were just in Europe. I'm actually sitting in Paris. This is where I live and work. And so it's a little bit late here now, but nevertheless fascinating. So my question is really, New Zealand is a member of OECD, but also of many other intergovernmental organizations. And my question is really on these issues: how much emphasis or importance, you talked about being a small country, but how much emphasis and importance do you attach to discussions or collaborations with your partners globally? And my favor is my former boss, Simon Upton, is currently, as I understand it, the Environmental Commissioner in the Parliament in New Zealand. So please say hello to him and send my greetings if you have the chance. That's all. Thank you.
Look, thank you, Peter. And indeed, Simon was in Parliament when I first came in, and then he went away, worked with you, and he's come back into this role. It's an important role. And look, we welcome I guess, analysis of our own systems internally, and we know that we're being watched, you know, at an international level as well. And I think for the most part, we match up pretty well. But we are always connecting with international fora, wanting to, you know, put our views forward and test our theories. We have, of course, we have an obligation internally to consult with our treaty partners, Maori people, our Indigenous people, and that's an interesting. They probably over time will become one of the biggest players across the primary sectors. They own a lot of land. They are slowly working through to develop that land and maximise its economic potential. So they will be big players. We have both a treaty obligation to consult with them, but there's also an obligation to, as major economic players in our economy, to talk with them as well. And as I say, they have values of kaitiakitanga, manakitanga, which is around stewardship, which is around the sharing and hospitality. Well, hospitality is a simple word for it, but the sharing of what we have. And as I was saying, to taiao, which is a well-being, a concept of well-being. So these are concepts that we're rolling into all parts of our economy, actually, as we have an obligation to be treaty partners. And that's a big challenge, because some of those concepts we don't understand well. Te mana o te wai is the value, the spiritual value of our water, and how we need to protect the water for water's sake, not just because it's an economic asset. And so these are things we're trying to, I guess, incorporate to a system of production that we hope can be the best for the world.
Okay.
Thank you very
Many
much.
thanks, and best wishes to you for the future.